welcome to all of you joining us for today's webinar on History and Applications of Computer Vision. We are delighted to have you all, and we hope this session provides valuable insights and sparks new ideas for all the participants. It is my privilege to introduce our speaker, Mr. N. Mithun Babu, who is currently a scientist at CSIR 4th Paradigm Institute, Bangalore. Mr. Mithun brings extensive expertise to this session. He completed his B.Tech in Mechanical Engineering from the prestigious National Institute of Technology, Rourkela, and went on to earn an MS by Research from the Robotics Research Center at the International Institute of Information Technology, Hyderabad. His research focused on robotics with a specialization in reinforcement learning and artificial intelligence. With a strong foundation in robotics and AI/ML, Mr. Mithun has made significant contributions to advancing intelligent systems. His work sits at the intersection of technology and creativity, reflecting how AI/ML tools are shaping both art and engineering. In today's webinar, he will take us on a journey through the fascinating evolution of computer vision, exploring its historical milestones, applications, and transformative potential. This session promises to be especially insightful for aspiring researchers eager to leverage AI technologies in their work. Before we begin, I would like to remind everyone that you can post your questions in the YouTube chat. These will be addressed during the Q&A session at the end of the webinar. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Mr. Mithun as he begins this engaging session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Reena. Thank you, Reena, for the brief introduction. I would like to thank the Jigyasa team and for providing me a platform to express the scientific ideas with the school children, and also CSIR4PI for providing me this opportunity. So today without any delay, I'll start with the application, with the topic History and Applications of Computer Vision. So even though I can't see the audience, I imagine them. So whenever I ask questions, please try to respond to them, and we'll try to make it a bit interactive, even though online. So okay, many people might have used their Instagram or Snapchat filters and other things, right? So these are the applications of computer vision, and one of the most recent advanced application of the computer vision is DALI, which when you prompt the AI agent with a single prompt, such as example here I funnily prompted cat leading a study group, it generates few images around that prompt. The important thing to observe is that these images have never been taken, and these are completely imagined by the computer. So for a computer to do this, it needs to understand what a cat is, what a study group is, and what it means a cat to lead a study group. So computers in 2024 have advanced so much. So how did we reach this point? That's a very good question to ask, right? Like, computers are able to understand cats or dogs or any other thing that you write down, and they're able to generate images. How did we reach at this point? So so we'll define the computer vision in a formal way first, and then we'll dive into the history. So what is computer vision? Like, you people can try to answer it. In most of my interactions, I hear people saying computer vision deals with computer to be able to see and understand things. That answers the question almost correctly. So computer vision is concerned about automatic extraction, analysis, and understanding of useful information from a single image, like one image, or a sequence of images. A sequence of images is a video. So that's called a computer vision system. But practically, what does it mean? So practically, we'd like to automate the human visual system. So whatever tasks the human is doing, we'd like to automate them so that human can do other fruitful things. And we might have heard about the age-old saying which goes, a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? So a picture contains a lot more information, and we need to extract it. So so now we know that our computers are able to process this information and generate any things that we ask in the prompt. But how did this complex animal or human visual system develop in the first place? So why I bring animal is because there is a lot of diversity in the visual system that we see around the world. So for example, if you see these visual systems of various animals, including humans, at the first we see a frog visual system, which has narrow pupil, a vertical pupil, and a cat visual system, and also a crocodile visual system. So these visual systems have developed vertical pupils because they are suitable for the environments which are dark. And the visual system of a horse, which has an horizontal pupil, are developed for their particular setting, like running faster, and this of an octopus. So the human or animal kingdom's visual system has developed quite a lot, and it has quite a variance to it. Not only the visual system, how the visual system is placed. Example, for human, the two eyes are placed right next to one another. And for a horse, they are placed at 135 degrees, around 135 degrees. For an fish, it's around 180 degrees. And for a chameleon, it can control its visual system independently. You can see the image. A chameleon can control its own eyes independently. So we developed a diversity of visual system. So computer vision not only handles, extract, and automate the tasks of the human visual system, but any visual system in general. So how did this complexity and variation come to the human visual system or animal kingdom in the first place? So it started all back in time. So we'll go back to the Earth's history. Earth is known to be 4.5 billion years old. And right when Earth started, there were no living organisms living by. But around 3.5 billion years ago, like 4.5 billion years to 3.5 billion years, there were no living organisms. Around 3.5 billion years ago, first single cell organisms have formed. And these organisms don't used to have eyes or any visual system with them. So they used to sit around. If some food or nutrient comes, they used to eat and they used to survive. Else they used to die. Then later on, they developed leg-like features called as cilia. You can see on the amoeba or bacteria over there. So these leg-like features helped them to move right and left or move forward and backward, so that they are able to grab the nutrients. But still, they don't have the visual system. They are unable to follow a particular nutrient, follow a particular food, or anything as such. So if they move here and there, if food luckily strikes them, they used to eat them and survive. Else they used to die. So the lack of visual system is very hard, right? And then from 3.5 billion years to nearly half billion years, which is 540 million years ago, there were no visual systems. But around 540 million years ago, we have seen an explosion of species. Like before 540 million years ago, there were few hundreds or thousands of species. But after 540 million years ago, there were crores of species. So why did this explosion of species happen? So an well accepted theory in scientific community is by Andrew Parker, called as light switch theory, which says it is due to the development of visual system. Eyes have developed, that's why number of species has increased. How? Like, see, if the first organism which might have developed the eyes, it might have looked at the prey and targeted the prey. Now it is getting food by running behind the prey. Now prey also developed the eyes to run away from the predator. So like that, a biological arms race has begun, which led to the diversity and explosion of species. We have seen quite some species in the past, right? They are quite diverse, suitable to their conditions, suitable to their survival techniques. Okay, this is how vision systems are developed. So our eyes are more than 500 million year old, and they gradually developed up to this stage. So, but to do any computer extraction information on it, first we need to understand, right? So the first paradigm of science, which is observing and understanding vision. So in science, not only in observing visual systems, but in any systems, the first thing we need to do is observe and understand how things are happening, like sun rises in the east. Similarly, people started observing visual systems only thousands and hundreds of years ago. So one earliest example was from Chinese text called Mozi, which described image as a collection point. And Greek philosophers such as Plato and Aristotle had placed two different theories. Then people don't used to know light, right? So light was not defined back then, back in around 400 AD or around that time. So there was an intromission theory and extromission theory. So extromission theory says that our eye is like a flashlight. We throw some light on an object and it is reflected back on the object and we are able to see it, which is actually false. But they theorized it. And now the intromission theory, which is the successful theory, which says the light is coming from the other sources around the object, and from that we are receiving into the eyes. And Euclid also observed. So these are all observations. This is observations of the science. So these are light travels in straight lines. And later on, around 1500 BC, 1500 AD, Leonardo da Vinci, he is very famous. And in his drawings, he tried to replicate the eye. Can we replicate the eye is the question. He answered. He provided some earlier drawings of how a human visual system works. And these are her drawings of the colleagues on how we can replicate a human visual system. So this was called Chimera Obscura. So these were the initial days where people were understanding visual system and noting what all things are happening. So the first paradigm of science is observation. Now the second paradigm of science, after you observe, what you do, you theorize or you write mathematical equations around it. So then comes the second paradigm of science. So people has modeled something called as pinhole camera. So pinhole camera is nothing but there will be a vertical slit. So you are observing the image from the side view and from an 3D point of view. You see the red shelf, right? It has an pinhole, and the light from the object is coming to the pinhole and traveling through this pinhole and is projecting an inverted image. That same viewpoint showed from the side view is given here. The object, the light travels here, travels through the pinhole and reaches it. And these are equations. So this is the second paradigm of science. So they derived some equations around it and modeled how human visual systems work. So how did they use it? So they did some observations, they did some modeling. How did they use it? So they used it to do paintings of temples or famous buildings. So what they used to do is they used to build a house with a small hole at the door. If you see that there is a small hole here, then they used to let the light pass through the hole, and they used to have a screen inside. With the pinhole camera concept explained earlier, you will get the inverted image of the temple or the building inside the screen, and some person used to stay there and used to draw these things. One such example from Persia is Buluwaddi temple that has been drawn or captured in a similar way. So people started capturing these things. But drawing these things and capturing these images is one phase. But understanding these things, how do we understand that there is a building in this image or there is an cat in this image? That's when people try to ask the question, is human-like vision hard? So they try to think, are we dealing with a very hard problem? So for that, there are three explanations. So I'll go one by one, which is in an visual system or in an eye, we generally project the objects from 3D to a 2D. As you can see from the camera here, the spheres, the pyramids and the cylinders are being projected onto a screen. So we are going from 3D XYZ to 2D. So there is some loss of information. So to explain it more better, imagine a situation where you are there and your friend is there. You asked your directions to your house for your friend, and your friend said go 3 meters to the north and 4 meters to the south. Now you have 2D information. Now you go to 3,4, you reach his house. But instead, if he said 1D information, my house is 5 meters far away from you, then you are lost, right? You will be moving in a circle. So similarly, going from 3D to 2D, you are losing some information. So this lost information can't be gained easily. This is what makes vision hard. To make it more practical, look at this video. So tell me the size of the frog here. Any rough estimate? I'm listening, though I'm not near you, I'm listening to you. So size of a football. Okay, I hear football, I hear watermelon. Okay, so the frog looks quite big, right? Okay, then now observe. Yes, the frog is in the size of a peach. Just it is placed before the camera. We are unable to tell whether the frog is the size of peach or on the size of the football. So that's the ambiguity I was speaking of. Because you are projecting from 3D to 2D, you are losing this information. So that's why we are able to take pictures that are shown on the right. Everyone might have seen pictures like these, right? Someone holding Taj Mahal with their fingertip, or someone holding the Leaning Tower of Pisa from falling down. Are they true? No, they are not true. We know that because we know Leaning Tower of Pisa exists and it's very large and it's very difficult for a human to jump on it. We are adding our context into here. Similarly, for the Taj Mahal also, we know that Taj Mahal exists and it's very huge. No one can hold it here. So we are using our pre-existing information to understand these pictures. But if you don't know Taj Mahal exists here, then it can be a holding toy, right? So that's what ambiguity I'm speaking of. To understand it more mathematically, so this is what is this? This is an projection of a cuboid on a plane. So all these 3D shapes, the shape 1, the shape 2, the shape 3, give the same projection. So there is an ambiguity. You can go from 3D to 2D, but when you go from 2D to 3D, you can't retain the entire information. That's what makes vision hard. And also the second thing, we are using a lot of contextual information. And the third important point is our human brain is well regarded, right? It's doing so many things. It is conscious and it's doing so many things. And more than 50 to 60% of the human brain is used for visual processing only. It includes facial recognition, depth perception, motion detection, and everything. So it's a complex problem it's trying to solve. So if you understand why vision is hard, it's hard first because there is a loss of information. We are going from 3D to 2D. Second, because we are using vast amount of contextual human knowledge. Like example, we know the size of a frog, we know the size of a human. That is not given to a computer directly. And the third important point is it needs large amount of compute. Our human brain has 85 billion neurons and 100 trillion synapses. In terms of modern advanced AI models have only 500 billion parameters, and that too they use crores and crores of compute to do that. So we understand vision is hard, right? So now we understand the problems. Let's tackle them one by one. Like how can we handle this ambiguity, or how it is handled in the human visual system? That's what we're trying to answer. So how is this ambiguity or complexity being tackled in the human brain? So we saw one is going from 3D to 2D. That's one loss of information. So for that loss of information, the answer is rather simple. Instead of using one eye, you use two eyes. Instead of using one camera, you use a pair of cameras. Then you get the same 3D scene from multiple views. Then you have some information that is lost being gained, right? Because you're viewing the same scene from the three views. Example, you're unable to see the spear at the back. But now from a different view, you will be able to see the spear. And how to tackle the complexity. We are saying the human brain is doing a heavy computation, right? So the question arises, how this human brain is tackling this complexity. So one well-regarded work, a Nobel Prize winning work by Hubel and Wiesel on kittens. So what they did is simple. So they took a kitten, and the place where optical nerve meets the brain, they have inserted two electrodes. Now they showed the kitten different images, and saw they will see the current around these electrodes, because if brain is getting activated, the electrodes must see some sort of current, right? So they showed the kitten different pictures, like example pictures of an cat, pictures of another cat or a mouse or fish, several things which cat will be interested, but none of them has actuated the cat's brain. So what actuated the cat's brain is they are changing slides, then these electrodes are getting triggered, not during showing the fish, not during showing the mouse, but while changing the slides they have observed that the cat's visual system or the initial part of the brain is getting excited. So from that they have derived that the cat, this is the experimental video. So from that they have derived that the initial part of the brain is not understanding the complex scenes, but rather simple things such as edges and stuff like that. So example here, this is the same Hubel and Wiesel. They are showing complex objects to the cat, but the cat electrodes attached to the cat's brain don't react, that we don't see any voltage or current around these electrodes. But in the same video you will see they show a circle, still it doesn't get actuated, but if you move the circle around it will create an edge, right? So this edge is actuating cat's brain. So our human visual system, though it's able to recognize complex objects, it's rather starting in a simple way. First it's recognizing edges, next boundaries, next corners, stuff like that, and then proceeding. So now our complex problem has become easy, right? So now people had found a base on which they can model into computer. So this is the third paradigm of science, that is modeling and simulation. So first paradigm is observation. You purely observe a phenomenon and then you try to theorize and write mathematical equations around it. And the third paradigm is modeling and simulation. So people try to model and simulation, do the simulation around it. So before understanding how people simulated things, we'll see what a computer sees. So example, here you see an 8 on the left, right? This is 8 on the left, but computer doesn't see it as 8. Computer sees it as white part as 255 and a black part as 0. And anything gray in between is somewhere number between 0 to 255. So computer understands only numbers. Similarly, if you think about an RGB image, like a colorful parrot here, it is divided into red, green and blue channels, and each channels are set of numbers again, like the shown here. Example, here if you see there is more white, so there is more red here. White means 255, right? So computer sees only numbers. Then how do we model? So Larry Roberts was one of the first guy who did this modeling, and Larry Roberts is a quite famous guy. He started the defense DARPA, which is the defense like DRDO of USA. He is one of the people of pioneered the internet. In his thesis, Block World, he tried to extract these edges that the cat was seeing, that the initial part of brain was cat was seeing, from the images. So that was his thesis. Thesis was around 1963. So he wrote his work around it, and then the modeling field has moved forward. So now he set a trace. Then the people from MIT did something called as MIT Vision Project. They said, okay, now Larry Roberts has given some idea of how to extract edges, corners and stuff like that. Let's try to solve the vision in this summer. That's what people, the Papert and their group thought. This is Project Mac. And but the vision is not solved till day, but they laid an initial groundwork. So you can understand two things from here. One, the basics of vision has been laid by this summer project. Second thing, like Papert and its group, you students also need to be very ambitious. Example, you want to be a doctor, you want to be a scientist, or you want to be a space engineer. You have to be ambitious. The progress happens slowly. And in the same vision, there is a book by David Marr on vision, which is heavily inspired from the neurological concepts that have been laid by Hubel and Wiesel. So they are able to write down how to better model vision. Like from the input image, we can derive edges. That's what human brain is doing. From the edges, we can derive continuous segments, which is 2.5D. And from these continuous segments, we can derive the 3D model of the world. So this is the layout called as hierarchical vision given by David Marr, one of the influential figure in the computer vision history. So then the field has exploded a lot. There was this work by Fischler, which modeled the faces as hair, ears, and connected with deformable springs. There was this work by Brooks, which modeled entire world as set of cylinders and shapes. And the David Lowe's work of identifying razors only through edges. And this is Jitendra Malik from UC Berkeley, where they have defined an algorithm called as grab cut to segment things. Example, I have said the face is a segment, right? We detect edges and also the entire face is a segment. So these things have been done. And this is the first commercial application. This came around 2001, called as hair classifier for identifying faces. This was first implemented in a Japanese company's camera called as Fujifilm. So it's identifying faces based on few things, like example, observing that the upper part of the eyes are rather black than lower part of the eyes. The two sides of eyes are rather black than the nose part. And identifying these features, they are able to identify the faces. So this is how work has progressed. Now we have seen how from the first paradigm of science around 1500s people have started observing things, and around 1500s to 1800s people started writing equations or theorizing stuff. Then from 1500s to now 1900s to 2000s, where people started modeling and simulating things in the computer. So these are three paradigms. Now comes an important question: how to bring contextual information. How does a cat know it has a cat? Someone must inform it to him, right? Example, a child must be informed that this is a cat, then only he will call it as cat, right? How to bring this information? Then comes the fourth paradigm, which we will discuss tomorrow. So for now, hopefully these are the references to the things, and for now hopefully I covered all the work that has been from the history of the computer vision till the third paradigm, where people started observing and simulating. Now tomorrow we'll further understand how, given a prompt of cat leading a study group, how did the computer created that image. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir, for an informative session. We have some questions from the audience. Can I ask?
Sure.
Yeah. So one question is, how can the loss of information be prevented? That is already answered, but
Yes.
you can explain further.
Yeah. So the loss of information can be prevented either using 3D sensors such as LiDAR.
Yes.
If you people might have heard about LiDARs on the autonomous cars, laser-based sensors that collect the 3D information rather than 2D information. The second way is doing it is using multiple cameras. Observe the same scene using 2 cameras or 3 cameras called as trifocal stereo camera setup.
Okay.
From that we'll get some depth information also.
Okay.
So one quick example to the person who asked this, I asked him to close an eye, see this finger, one finger with one eye, and after some time close this eye and see this finger. This finger moves from right to left. This is because of the stereo vision. Okay. So the closer the finger is, the farther it moves. Mm-hmm. So we can use, through this information, we perceive the depth and stuff like that.
Okay.
Hope it answers your question.
Yes, sir. So there is one more question. How does computer vision intersect with cyber security? Could you share some examples where these fields complement each other?
Yes. So computer vision is basically dealing with images, mm-hmm. and cyber security is a platform where we need to be secure in an cyberspace. Mm-hmm. So one thing, tomorrow examples, I'll show one thing. We are seeing deep fake videos, mm-hmm. of people, example, our CM or our example, I'll show the video of Bill Gates, mm-hmm. being deep faked. Mm-hmm. How do we know that it's a fake or not? Yes. So there are tools such as Microsoft Video Authenticator. Mm-hmm. So get aware of these tools. And also you must be safe on your side. Don't upload very high definition images onto social media, and you need to be careful. This is cybersecurity is a vast space. This is one component of how to be how to stay away from the fake videos or fake news that are being generated. There are multiple websites that can authenticate it. And other way of looking at is can we use the cyberspace data? Can we observe the cyberspace data? Example, the network of flowing of packets, everything. Can we observe it in an image, the world network packets as an image, and we can detect the changes within the network, whether the flow has increased towards one side, something is happening around there, things like that.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, sir. We have one more question. What role did the development of digital image processing in the 1960s play in computer vision?
Yes, that's the third paradigm of science, which is digital image processing. So it played a very crucial role. Now we are having GPUs and compute. Earlier we didn't have any GPUs or compute, right? So they in digital image processing, people have developed several filters such as Laplacian filter, Gaussian filter, to understand whether edges are present or not. Whether if edge is present, the edge is spread or not. Whether the segment is like edges are not only sufficient, right? Example, my face is an edge, but my entire face is connected. So there are filters to understand this. And also there are several feature extractors, like to compare two images to say they are equal. Several feature extractors have been developed in the deep digital image processing era. So such as shift invariant feature processing. This is a patented feature processing algorithm that can map images, that can derive features in the Laplacian space and can map features. So this is how digital image processing has laid the ground for the work that is happening now. Now we have more compute. Instead of manually getting these filters and stuff like that, we'd get this automatic extracted through deep learning or machine learning techniques.
Yes. Thank you, sir. So that's all we have.
So everyone feel free to message these questions. If you are shy asking on an YouTube chat, you can message the questions to mithun@CSIR4PI.in. I'll try to answer. If I don't know, I'll find out with my colleagues and try to answer your question.
Thank you, sir, for an insightful and engaging session on history and applications of computer vision. Your expertise and detailed exploration of computer vision's evolution and its applications have given us a deeper understanding of the field. The examples you shared and the ideas you presented will undoubtedly inspire many of us to delve deeper into this fascinating era. To our audience, thank you for your active participation and thoughtful questions. We hope this session has provided you with valuable perspectives and inspiration for your research or professional endeavors. Before we conclude, I would like to remind everyone that the next part of this webinar will take place tomorrow at 11 a.m. We look forward to seeing you all again as we continue this exciting journey into the world of computer vision. Thank you once again and have a wonderful day ahead.